Welcome back, our dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review for today. And at the beginning, I would like to say good morning to my dear guest in the studio, Mr. Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister of Commercial and member of the Egyptian Council for Economic Affairs. Good morning.
Very good morning to you.
And we start off from Al-Ahram and from the front page, an Egyptian-Kuwaiti agreement on facing terrorism and the challenges of the region. Al-Sisi says the security of Kuwait and the Gulf countries is part of the Egyptian national security, and Sheikh Subah Al-Ahmed says Egypt's role is pivotal in supporting the stability of the Arab countries. An Egyptian-Kuwaiti summit to boost the Arab action and face forces of strife and sabotage. The president says we are keen on continuing the activation of cooperation with Kuwait in all fields. Al-Sisi praises the Kuwaiti effort to reach political settlements for the crisis in the Arab world. And in his meeting with the Kuwaiti Parliament Speaker, the President stressed the importance of boosting parliamentary ties between the two countries. And the Sisi tackles with the Kuwaiti Prime Minister, boosting ties and increasing investment. The President tackles with the Kuwaiti Foreign Minister the developments of the regional causes and files. The President thanks Kuwait for its care to the Egyptian community in the country. Still with the same issue from Al-Akhbar front page, the President says the security of the Gulf is part and parcel of our national security. And a historic Egyptian-Kuwaiti summit between the Sisi and the Subah, and the Emir of Kuwait says Egypt's role is pivotal in supporting the security and stability of the Arabs. And the Sisi tackles with the Kuwaiti Prime Minister increasing mutual investments, and the President says our ties are unique and we are looking forward to continue with developing the joint cooperation. And the President tackles with the Kuwaiti Foreign Minister the developments of the regional files, and the Sisi says the unity of the Arab ranks is a must to face the challenges of the region. In his meeting with the Kuwaiti Parliament Speaker, President Sisi says boosting parliamentary ties, and Marzouk Al-Ghanim says we support Cairo in its path to development. And in his meeting with the Kuwaiti Interior Minister, Sisi thanks the Kuwaiti Emir, the government and the people for supporting and hosting the Egyptian community. And of course, the same issue was tackled in Al-Gumhuriyya, Egypt and Kuwait, the summit of cooperation and the unity of the rank. And in a joint press conference with Al-Ahmed, after the talks, Sisi said the security of the Gulf is part of Egypt's security. As Sisi says, we appreciate the stances of our brother in support of the will of the people and the efforts of development. As Sisi says, boosting the joint Arab action to face unprecedented challenges. As Sisi says, a political solution must be reached that would end suffering in Yemen. Of course, still with the visit of Kuwait, and from Al-Akhbar, Madbouli, the visit of Kuwait was discussed in all the newspaper. Sir, how do you see the timing and importance of such a visit by His Excellency President Sisi to Kuwait? And of course, Egypt and Kuwait are having historical ties which bind the two countries together.
One of the most important official visits of President Sisi in the world, not only in the Arab region. Why? Because it is with Kuwait. It is well known that Egypt stood by Kuwait when it was about to be invaded by Abdul Karim Qasim of Iraq in the early 60s, and again
during the Iraqi war.
The Iraq invasion, when they already invaded Kuwait. At the time of Saddam Hussein, it was Egypt who led the Arab world to defend Kuwaiti independence and integrity of its own land. So relations between Egypt and Kuwait are historical and strong ones. We have very good, relatively big Egyptian community in Kuwait. And when the president sees the emir or the ruler or the king, the prime minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of the Defense, Minister of Interior, and the Speaker of the Parliament, this means that the visit is of equally important to the Kuwaiti side. Relations between Egypt and Kuwait are multidimensional, strategic, political, economic, and also for the security of the whole Gulf area. That is why what Emir of course said, and what the Prime Minister and what the Speaker of the Parliament said, confirms that Egypt is the strongest ally or supporter of Kuwait. Equally, when Kuwait has been always supportive of the Egyptian economy, of the Egyptian community in Kuwait, and even when they are going for elections in Egypt to vote, they were supported by the Kuwaiti authorities. So it was a successful and important mission for President Sisi in Kuwait.
Also, the issue of fighting terrorism, sir, and the stability of the whole region, especially the
Yes.
Yemeni cause. How do you see these issues?
This is another issue.
Yes.
Another issue. Besides the strategic or security,
Relations, indeed.
In fighting terrorism, Kuwait is facing terrorism.
Indeed.
From Iraq, from other countries, from Iran, from other countries. Egypt is also facing terrorism. It's in Western Desert, in the Nile Valley, and in Sinai. So we are in the same boat as far as terrorism is concerned.
Yeah.
We have to close the ranks between the two countries, exchange information, and also be alert to any subversive activities by this or that country in the world. And this is another important. Usually, not much details are said, and it should not be mentioned, of course. But it is an important issue of highest importance between foreign relations between Kuwait and Egypt, and that's why it was tackled also by President.
Indeed. And from Al-Akhbar, page 3. Madbouli inspected development projects in Alexandria and 6.8 billion pounds to develop the port and 605 million to develop the roads and raising the efficiency of the Alexandria port to cope with the movement of trade. Madbouli says linking El Dikhila Harbour with the coastal road and developing El Alamein Matruh. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli called on the construction companies carrying out the development projects in Port of Alexandria to meet the highest standards of quality and to be committed to the time schedules. The Prime Minister made the remarks during an inspection tour of the Port of Alexandria to check and follow up the latest updates of the developmental process. Madbouli asserted that Egypt's recent economic development attract investments and will need better services in the Port of Alexandria. Of course, a very important visit by Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli.
Not for construction, but for the economy.
Indeed.
When the Prime Minister himself goes to the Port of Alexandria and visiting Alamein and also seeing the coastal area until as far as Marsa Matruh to the left, this, I call it the golden triangle of development in Egypt. Why? From Alamein to Alexandria to Marsa Matruh, a lot of tourism, a lot of infrastructure is going there, and most importantly, the economic projects which are being established in this area are very important from petrol point of view, from industrial point of view, and also from power generation point of view in El Dab'a. And we will see a lot of activity in this part of the world, part of Egypt. When the Prime Minister goes he speeds up and puts everything in its right place, and he's highlighting the importance of quality of product. This is our efficiency of work and the time schedule which they should stick to. And this is important for both the economy and the development in that part of the world.
From Al Gumhuriya front page, the health insurance, a dream that is officially coming true. The government launched the official inauguration from the Free City and registering 50% from those targeted and activating all the units. The World Health Organization praises the system and the World Bank ready to support the project. Of course, great achievements in the health sector and the issue of insurance.
It was badly needed.
Yes.
And now they begin an icon in Port Said. Why in Port Said? A limited area, a limited number of inhabitants, and you can try it there and then spread to other parts of Egypt. It's good that began it in Port Said, and clearly, I think it is more than 50%. Those who participated are about far higher than 50%, is about 80%.
50% from the targeted people did register.
I think it is higher than this percentage, but anyhow, still, when a good part or good percentage of the people are contributing to the health coverage, this means that the issues in question are important to them, and they are relevant, and they acquire the technology and the infrastructure necessary to make it a success in this part of Egypt.
And from Al-Akhbar front page, we move to the regional front where Israeli warplane shelled South Lebanon after an attack by Hezbollah. Israel and Hezbollah exchanged fire along the Lebanese border after a week of rising tensions, sparking fears of an escalation and prompting concern from the world powers. Israel said it responded with around 100 artillery shells on Sunday after Hezbollah fired 2 or 3 anti-tank missiles at the battalion headquarters and military ambulance, hitting both. Israeli officials refuted claims by the Iranian-backed movement that it had killed and wounded those inside the military vehicle, saying there were no casualties. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that they were consulting about next steps and have ordered that they be prepared for any scenario. Meanwhile, the UN called for restraint, this as France said that it had made multiple contacts to avert an escalation. U.S. State Department official said the United States voiced concern over the destabilizing role of proxies in the region. Earlier, Lebanon's Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri contacted senior U.S. and French officials to urge their countries and the international community to intervene. How do you see these developments in
we
Lebanon?
know that there will be elections in Israel on 17th of this month.
Yeah.
When Hezbollah choose these times to strike some childish strikes against Israeli vehicles, that's something which is silly, and the timing is not appropriate in any way. This is one thing.
Yeah.
When France, the United States, and even the Prime Minister of Lebanon are calling for help, this means that Hezbollah is a proxy, as mentioned here, or destabilizing factor in this respect, and it should be stopped, and they should not do it again, please.
From Al-Ahram, page 6, Netanyahu renews pledge to annex West Bank settlements. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday renewed his pledge to annex all Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank as he sought to shore up right-wing support ahead of a September 17th election. Netanyahu and his Likud party have been working to maximize turnout and wrest votes from other right-wing parties close to the influential settlement movement. He made the same promise ahead of last election in April. However, the results left him unable to form a viable governing coalition, and he opted for a fresh poll for September 17th. Israeli occupied the West Bank in 1967. Israeli settlements are viewed as illegal under international law and a major obstacle to peace since they lie on land the Palestinians see as part of their future state. Annexation on a large scale could prove to be the death knell for their statehood ambitions. Saeb Raiqad, the Secretary General of Palestine Liberation Movement, called on the international community to take action after Netanyahu's comments. Of course, a very infuriating comments by Netanyahu.
It is unwelcome and unacceptable. He has elections after a couple of weeks, and he is trying to cater for the votes of the far right wing so that he can have a viable coalition and more stable government at the expense of the Palestinians in Gaza. He struck Gaza a couple of days ago, and now he's trying to confirm that he will have more settlements, and Israel now, or Netanyahu in this way, is the destabilizing factor in the Middle East.
Yes, and Al-Ahram, page 6, tackled the issue of Syria, where relative calm in Idlib despite the U.S. strikes. And Russia says the U.S. strikes in Syria's Idlib put ceasefire at risk. Russia's military said the United States had mounted airstrikes in Syria's Idlib without forewarning Moscow or Ankara, endangering a ceasefire there. Russian news agency reported the news on Sunday. The news agency cited the Russian Defense Ministry as saying that the strikes without a heads up in the de-escalation zone breached previous agreements and caused several casualties. It added that Russian and Syrian warplanes had fully suspended raids against insurgents in Idlib province in the northwest of Syria after declaring a ceasefire that started on Saturday morning. Of course, still we are witnessing unrest in Idlib.
Clearly, the U.S. strikes in Idlib are unwelcome for the Syrian government, for its allies, and also even for the Russian and for the Turkish. And situation in northern part of Syria is very critical and very sensitive for the integrity of the Israeli territory, of the Syrian territory. It is very important for us that subversion should be stopped, infiltration should be stopped, and also the war planes should stop its activity in the Syrian territory.
Indeed. And from Al-Ahram, page 6. The Iranian oil tanker docks before the shores of Syria. An Iranian oil tanker at the center of a dispute between Washington and Tehran is no longer heading towards Turkey's Iskenderun port and now has no specified destination. Definitive ship tracking data showed that the U.S. Treasury Department on Friday blacklisted the tanker Adrian Darya 1, which was detained by the British of Gibraltar in July due to the British suspicion it was carrying Iranian oil to Syria in violation of the EU sanctions. Definitive tracking data registered the ship's destination as a for order after previously listing it as Iskenderun. For order usually means a vessel is available for charter. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif accused the United States on Twitter of engaging in a piracy and threats to stop Tehran selling oil to tradition clients. And Turkey said on Friday the tanker was headed to Lebanon's water, but the United States later said the ship was sailing to Syria. Turkey's Iskenderun port is 200 kilometers north of Syria's Banyas refinery, the tanker's suspected original destination. When the ship was released off Gibraltar in mid-August, after 5 weeks of standoff, Iran told Britain the cargo was not headed to Syria. The ship tracking data indicated the tanker heading in a westerly direction after previously moving eastward toward the Turkish coast throughout the afternoon. How do you see this situation?
Well, really, it is a tug of war between the United States and Iran. Syria is the victim in this, and even the navigation rights of other countries are in question in this. When they are trying to stop the tanker, Iranian tanker from going to other destinations, it is called piracy in a way, and we know what happened in Gibraltar by Britain a couple of weeks ago, and now they are trying again to suffocate the free movement of ships. And this is unwelcome in any way, whatever the country is in question is concerned.
The last item we have for today comes from Al-Ahram, page 6. 28 killed and injured in Texas in a random shooting. A gunman who went off on the rampage with an AR-type rifle in West Texas killed 7 people and wounded 22 others, including a toddler who was shot in the face before he was killed by the police. Authorities made the announcement on Sunday. The police said the second mass shooting in Texas in 4 weeks began on Saturday afternoon with a routine traffic stop and ended when the suspect, a white male in his 30s, was concerned by officers in the parking lot of a cinema complex. Police, motorists and shoppers were all caught up in the chaos that unfolded between the cities of Odessa and Midland during a busy Labor Day holiday weekend. Another mass shooting in the United States.
This is the result of legalizing firearms of mass destruction, will I say, in the United States. This is the tug of war between, or the balance between those who are against multifunction guns and those who are with it, and the victim are the American people and American children.
Indeed.
And the culprit or the criminal.
Indeed, a very actually sad incident. Mr. Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub,
yes.
Former Minister, Commercial and member of the Egyptian Council for Economic Affairs. Always a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Have a lovely day.
Have a nice day, you and the viewers.
Thank you so much, sir. And that would bring us, our dear viewers, to the end of our press for today. A short break, and after that we'll be back to resume the segments of our breakfast show for today, so stay tuned.